Last year I went on a retreat with some of our clergy, and we went to the border. We went to Douglas. And it was an immersion experience, an opportunity to see what it was like to spend a little bit of time on the border. The first night that we were there, we gathered in the cold, windy dusk, a mile from the border. We gathered there with Mark Adams, who is a border missionary, who lives in Agua Prieta, the sister city across from Douglas. Mark had a pickup truck full of white crosses, 2 foot tall, whitewashed, and on each cross they had painted the name of a person who had died in the desert near Douglas. 300 crosses, 300 names. We said a prayer and then we started our walk. We walked across the street, and then for a mile, the leader would stop, turn around, hold up one of their crosses, and say the name of the person who had died in the desert, and then would say, "Presente, I present you to God, and we are present with you, and we pray that no one else will suffer your fate." For a mile, 300 names, 300 crosses stretched on the road, 300 souls lost. Each one we presented to God. The next day, our band of clergy went across the border at Douglas to Agua Prieta. And we got on a very old school bus that I wasn't certain it was actually going to start. But the driver got it started, and we went on the road filled with potholes, incredibly narrow, and each time a truck would pass us on the other way, I thought it would only get so much closer until sometimes it seemed to be no room between us and the passing truck. About halfway there, I was looking out across the desert, crystal morning sun shining on a cold winter day. I saw 5 people in single line, going north, wearing backpacks, one of them obviously a woman. It was clear what they intended to do. They were going to approach the border, climb the 20-foot high steel fence, and drop to the other side, and hope that they weren't injured, or where they could keep going, either to meet a coyote or to make their own way into the United States. I prayed, Presente, that God will be with you, and that you will be safe in your journey. Lent is hard. Lent is very hard because the desert is very dangerous. The danger of the desert is filled with temptations and the evil of a story that we cannot get away from. Jesus went into the desert, into the darkness, into the somber tones, into the mournful prayers. It seems too much. When will Lent be over? It just started. It seems to already been going on way too long. Personally, I'd rather think about Ireland. 40 shades of green, literally. A few years ago, I went there on retreat with some friends, and we stayed in a retreat home in Glendalough, near a babbling brook. It seemed more like a holiday than a retreat or a pilgrimage. And we were there, enjoying a light rain like today in Ireland. It rained every day we were there. Gentle, soft mist. But then we started to pray. We started to share our stories with one another. And then the visions came. And then my ego was ripped away from my soul, like the bark ripped from a dry tree, like a bandage torn off the skin of a wound. My soul was open. In the desert, the desert. It seemed like I was not in the desert, but I was. I was in the desert. Like a holy man told me once, wherever you go, there you will be.